Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. I use that hashtag how I got custody because I talk about how I got custody. There's a bunch of punk lawyers out there who say, oh, you're practicing law without a license. First of all, I'm not holding myself out to be the attorney. The end. Over with. Second of all these attorneys are committing dereliction of duty and malpractice, and they're forcing women clients to give them oral sex, like Jeffrey Robinson out of Gig Harbor in Tacoma, Washington. He was married to a family law commissioner named, I think her first name's Mary Dickey, D-I-C-K-E. David Contos has sex with clients for free services, and he's a pro tem commissioner in Kent. Bunch of weirdos, psychos, and then they're the ones who become judges and create this family court system. Think about it. Most politicians have a law degree. Most politicians are corrupt and evil and are bought by the mafia and special interest groups. So they're out here saying, I'm practicing law without a license. I have a free speech right to tell everybody my story and how I won. In your face. What now? Do something. Say something. So I want to do a separate video on this topic. I mentioned in my last video. But so many people are afraid to go in and tell the judge what their job is and what the law says. And I just thought of this in the middle of doing a video. When you go to the Court of Appeals or you appeal your decision, let's say you get screwed at trial or you lose the contempt and you want to appeal it, you have to write an appellant's brief. You're also allowed to write a brief at trial, and most people do. And what do you write in a brief? What's the purpose of a brief? It's to brief the court on the issues and the law. That's what people talk about. I mean, I took some, when I went back to school after I went through my custody battle and some other battles in court, we had to learn how to summarize a case and brief a case. To prep an attorney for it and to see what laws apply. If a judge gets offended that you're telling them what the law says, that's like a referee getting offended that you're telling them holding is illegal and you're missing the holding calls in a football game. Or punching below the belt is illegal. And then dude's getting punched below the belt and they're not deducting a point or getting disqualified or anything. Why do you think Evander Holyfield raised a stink when his ear got bitten off by Mike Tyson? That's against the rules, plus it was painful. And, is it Mills Lane? Is that who the referee was? He just let him keep going. And then later he realized what was going on. I can't remember exactly how that fight ended. Now I'm spacing out. Anyway, I think Tyson got out of control again and then he was disqualified or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, but Holyfield was jumping up and down and raised a stink because his ear got bitten off. So these people raise a stink when somebody violates something. People scream when somebody, you get in a four-way intersection and somebody else goes and it's not their turn. You're afraid to tell a judge what the law says in a court of law when you're talking about your lawful rights, and your attorney at law won't tell the judge what the law says in a court of law. When you go to the Court of Appeals and you have to write a brief, so you can write a brief for a trial in regular district court and stuff. When you go to the Court of Appeals, you have to write a brief of appellant. You have to. If you don't, they'll dismiss your case. They don't want to go and figure out what the law is that specifically applies or case law that applies. That's your job to make sure that they know that. So that being said, if you go to the Court of Appeals and you raise an issue and you don't cite a law that applies to that specific issue, they will say, this person claims this, but they cite no legal authority, so we're not even going to address whether he's right or wrong. Go look up some case law. Just Google Supreme, whatever your state is, Minnesota Supreme Court, best interest of child. Or, you'll have to find a bunch of cases to find it because it doesn't happen all the time because everybody writes a brief of appellant. But there's times when an attorney forgets to put an issue in there or forgets to cite a law or legal authority, and they just say, oh, that's not right. They have to cite a law or a legal authority for that. So if they don't, they won't address it. So how come in the higher courts that are higher than your, you got Superior Court or District Court? We call it Superior Court here. Most of you call it District Court. In New York, they're so weird. They call the regular court Supreme Court. Then they got the Court of Appeals, and I don't know what they call their final appellate court since the main thing is Supreme Court. But you're down here, when you go to the Court of Appeals, if you don't file a brief of appellant, and if you do file a brief, they dismiss your case. If you do file a brief of appellant, and you talk about, like, there's 4 errors that the judge made, and you cite case law and legal authority on error 2, 3, and 4, and they say on error number 1 that they claim, they didn't cite any legal authority, so we're not even going to address that. We're not even going to look at it unless you cite a legal authority. And you're afraid to tell your judge what the law says, and people higher ranking than them demand the law or case law to be cited? That's insane. You're believing something stupid from some psycho attorney of yours, or from some soft, gentle, feminine, cowardly attorney who's doing that just because that's what they heard. Or one time a judge told them, look, I don't need you to tell me the law. And they should have said, I have a right to cite the law, and I need to brief you so that I'm assuring my client of his rights, and I have a right to argue that stuff. Why does the Court of Appeals exist? Why does the Supreme Court exist? Why does the United States Supreme Court exist? Because you guys get it wrong sometimes. So don't tell me I can't tell you what the law says and remind you of it. That's my job as a lawyer. So don't believe that stupid crap. Oh, we can't tell them what the law says. Here's another great example of me giving you some insight, and you've been following the culture of what everybody else says and listening to them. And then I got idiots, a third to half the people who call me are just trying to milk me for some free information and stuff. And I say, hey, look, you need a consult for that. Well, I don't know if I could trust you. I don't know. What is it that you do, or prove it, or show it, or prove it? All you got to do is send me that winning court orders. When I saw a guy who got custody or 50-50, or who did this, or who did that, I knew I could talk to him about something. Or who won in the Court of Appeals. You got to be a idiotic, low IQ, moronic, airheaded Neanderthal numbnuts to look at my winning court orders and say that I don't know what I'm talking about. You are stupid. You need to stop with this stupidity. Your stupidity is causing you to make some irrational decisions. But it's not like you're stupid like this in everyday life. You just go to family court, you're like, oh my God, there's some legal words in here. I don't know what to do, whether I should fight for my kid or stand up for my rights. And you've seen movies, you've seen live trials, like the O.J. Simpson trial, or the Rittenhouse trial, or trials that they show on TV. They got court TV all the time showing stuff like that. And there's attorneys up there yelling and arguing and passionately arguing, like, I don't know if I could do that. You know better than that. You just turned dumb, numbnuts, Neanderthal, scaredy cat in family court because you've been afraid of your baby's mom because you let her punk you your whole marriage or dating relationship. Now, I know these women have gotten out of control, and they're demanding, and they're overbearing, and men generally don't want any drama. So we're like, okay, fine, here, just take the credit card, or here, just do this, or here, just do that. They try and do something nice for them. They think you're a punk or whatever. And it's all backwards, and women are way out of order and out of line, and they're trying to usurp people. It's the curse of Eve. She wants to rule over the man and give you attitude and not just be in a team. It's like the genders are at war instead of we're supposed to be a team. We're supposed to be married. We like each other, so we're spending time together. Instead, it's a war, and these women are taught by a generation of single moms that were born out of the hippie generation, and nobody has any kind of God-fearing respect for family and the fact that it's work and it's not just hypersexualized fun all the time, and it's not just the honeymoon stage. I get that. Women are out of control and stuff. But it's time for you to grow some balls and fight for your kid. And that means be decisive and make a decision in a court of law. I'm going to act like it's a court of law. And see, when you read what the law says or what the rules say, and then you go into court and say, oh, well, wait, we don't do that like that around here. Why don't we get back to the law? It got out of order because of all this feminism and everybody being scared and everybody being punked. That's like saying, oh, well, you can't set up for a black person in Jim Crow South because that's not the way we do stuff around here. It doesn't matter. The rights are the rights. The Constitution is the Constitution. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. The end.